Welcome back, America. You know, Jim Jordan, the Democrat Party has been trying to destroy the electoral system. You're in the House. Nancy Pelosi becomes the Speaker. They propose H.R. 1, which would eviscerate all the state election laws, voter ID laws, residency laws, and everything else. Then they attack the Electoral College. If we didn't have an Electoral College, Abraham Lincoln wouldn't have been elected president of the United States. I just want people to understand that. So they want to destroy the Electoral College. So basically, only Democrat-populated cities and coasts would run the country. Everybody in between, there'd be no representation. Yeah. That's why we have an Electoral College. Then they're trying to stuff the judiciary with radical leftists, in my view, like this Chunkin and others. So we have really what is a national Politburo rather than an independent judiciary. You can see that in some of these rulings and so forth. Then they try and twist the 14th Amendment when it comes to ballot positions, and, by the way, when it comes to the debt limit. So they use the Constitution and twist it when they can to advance their cause. They get a couple of knucklehead professors out there who basically say anything. Yeah. They just need 125 pages to say nothing. And now we're supposed to all agree to this. Isn't this, it's bigger than the moment. Isn't this a war on our Constitution, the Republic, and the rule of law?
It sure is. And you didn't even get to what they're trying to do to the Second Amendment. You didn't even get to what they've done over the last 2 years to the First Amendment. God bless the judge in the Western District of Louisiana, the court there that said the Biden administration was the pressure and coercion that they were putting on big tech was an attack on First Amendment free speech rights. And he went through 80-some pages of facts, how these various agencies in the Biden administration were attacking our First Amendment liberties. So you are exactly right. It is a fundamental assault on the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, the things we cherish, the things that make us the greatest country ever. And that's what's at stake here. And then it's all targeted to President Trump because they know he will defend what we're all describing there, all those rights and liberties we enjoy under our constitutional system.
So very quickly, then, why does Chris Christie keep attacking the victim rather than attacking the perpetrators here? He says, you know, Trump's going to be in all these trials and everything. We can't have a guy like that. Isn't he basically then giving aid and comfort to this entire effort?
Yeah, I do not understand that. I do not know why we won't stick together and fight the left's assault on the Constitution. And what we've done in our committee, particularly the Weaponization Committee, this assault on the First Amendment right to speak. 5 liberties we have under the First Amendment. The most important one is your right to speak and not be harassed and attacked by the government for doing so. Because if you can't speak, you can't petition your member of Congress to redress your grievances. You can't really assemble and do the things you need to. You can't practice your faith, share your faith. That right to speak, and that's the one the left was coming after the most. And we have caught them in all kinds of things. It is scary where it's going. So why we don't unite as a party and push back on that, I do not get. And so I don't understand what Mr. Christie's doing. I do understand that our liberties are under assault, and we better stick together as a party to fight the radical left that now unfortunately controls the Democrat Party.
I understand what he's doing. It's called opportunism. Now, Jim Jordan, in the short time we have left, here's the big question. You're the chairman of the Judiciary Committee. Impeachment inquiry on Joe Biden, yes or no?
Yes, I feel like we have to go there. The speaker's been clear. He said when the evidence and facts warrant us going to that level, we will do that because, as you know, Mark, when you actually have a resolution that the House votes on and says majority of the House supports, the courts understand that when you're in this inevitable conflict with the executive branch to get documents and to depose certain witnesses, the courts understand the House is engaged in a fundamental constitutional activity, the impeachment power. So that's why an impeachment inquiry resolution is important. For us to be able to get the information we need to get the facts and the truth to the American people. So I think it's warranted. I think we're likely to go there probably even this month. But that's a call in the end for the speaker. But I think he's been clear. If we need to go there, we will. I think it's about time for that.
You have Ken Buck, who keeps bucking the system, keeps saying, well, I don't see anything here. I'm going to send him a pair of glasses, I think. Now, that said, you can't afford to lose too many Republicans. You think you'll have them all except for Mr. Buck?
I do. I think we will. I think, again, as the facts pile up, I think we'll get there.
All right, Jim Jordan, thank you for your patriotism and all you do. God bless you, my friend.
You bet.
Hi, everyone. I'm Brian Kilmeade. I want you to do me a favor. I want you to click to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page. This is the only way that I know for sure that you're not going to miss any great commentary, any great news bites, any great interviews coming your way on Fox. You can get it all here on YouTube. So subscribe right now.